If you were tasked with changing the car industry or making an impact, how would you do it?
Rally sport, motorsport. With the others struggling to just stay on the rain-slicked track, Stuck enjoys a Sunday drive.
What car would you choose as a flagship? Would you put it in movies?
I thought I lost you back there. You did, sir.
All of those things would be ideal, but first things first, you actually have to build the car or the drivetrain that's going to do it. How did this manufacturer of really just sensible cars become one of the most formidable competitors to some of the biggest names in racing? This video is about more than just some good all-wheel drive system. It's about a company that ushered in a new era for what car buyers would demand to have in their sports cars.
A daily commuter, a track car, a sports weekend car. Wait for it. When you can only have one, you know, thanks to Audi.
We're going to dive deep into the development, the controversy, and the triumphs around this permanent all-wheel drive sports car. So welcome to Why Buy, and this is the story of Audi's legendary Quattro. So when do we actually notice technology? Stop and say, wow, ooh, ah. Because technology is advancing all the time. Things are getting better, lighter, faster, more recycled material, more efficient materials. But when we stop to notice something and talk about it with each other, it's typically something groundbreaking.
I simply like the idea of developing a vision for a car in a form that didn't yet exist at that time, and to show the world that we could do it better. The all-wheel drive idea made automotive history for Audi.
I think it's that kind of technology that scares us a little bit, but inside we're like, I want that. That is exactly how people felt when the Audi Quattro was first introduced. Not at the 1980 Geneva Motor Show, but when people actually saw it on the track, racing and rally, and for the first time witnessed the speed. So what is it like to drive a modern Audi Quattro sports car? Well, in a way, it's very satisfying.
It genuinely feels like 450 horsepower. unlike some vehicles that might have 450 horsepower at the crankshaft, but at the wheel you might have, say, 410 horsepower because of the driveline loss. And it has mostly to deal with mechanical friction and intervention systems like stability control and traction control. When you have permanent all-wheel drive pushing power to every single wheel in the car, it can put it down effectively so that there's no wheel spin, and even with a heavy car like this, it feels lighter, faster, more nimble, simply because it's putting down power efficiently. The car has a really easy time moving through corners, and you can feel it when you're driving only if you push it, say, like 8/10 or 9/10, kind of at the limit of the vehicle. Then you start to notice its weight. But otherwise, for just sporty driving or casual driving, it feels like a light, nimble sports car. And I think that's kind of the magic of these cars, is you can get something that has comfortable seating, a nice cockpit, luxury materials, lots of power. It's nice to take on long distance road trips, but if you ever want to open it up and enjoy some performance driving, you don't have to compromise on all those other things. And I think that's what makes quattro vehicles so desirable, is that you don't need multiple cars for the different styles of driving you're going to do. You can have just one car.
You feel like you have access to all of the engine's power, and you're never guessing whether or not you have traction. The systems, the way they're designed, it's instantaneous. If you want power to be put down, it gets put down. And what's best is that even when you're not paying attention, you still feel like, you know, if something were to happen unexpected, you would be in control. So why does the RS5, this big touring car, feel like a sports car? Quattro permanent all-wheel drive. So where does Audi's quattro system come from? Like most advanced technology that we get to enjoy as consumers today, it came from the military. The birth of this highly effective all-wheel drive system actually came from the Type 183 Volkswagen Iltis, an amphibious kind of Jeep-like military vehicle that was a little bit underpowered, but what was remarkable is how it could practically go anywhere. The Type 183 was novel in the sense that despite, again, being underpowered, you could get anywhere because it was lightweight, a philosophy that actually harkened back to the 181 Munga, which was developed by DKW. Why does this even matter? Well, DKW is one of the companies that represents those four rings, Audi. So did Audi and VW invent the all-wheel drive system? I don't really know, but I think what they did was they perfected it so that you could have it in a road-going car. You have to remember that at the time, all-wheel drive or 4x4s were typically only in big SUVs and trucks because they didn't really have differentials. They had transfer cases that were really heavy, and to put in a car just didn't really make much sense. Now, these systems, when you engaged 4x4, yes, you would send power to the front and rear axles, but the problem was without a differential, the inside and outside wheels couldn't rotate at different speeds. Now, for off-road applications, this didn't really matter because on a loose surface, those wheels could spin, and at low speeds, it wouldn't really provide much in loss of control. But on pavement, it was terrifying. That's why, you know, people would say if you're on the road, disengage 4x4 because your inside and outside wheels are rotating at the same speed, which would, you know, especially going around the corner, would scare the crap out of you. So going back to Audi, VW, and the Iltis, it's one thing to have a permanent all-wheel drive system in a military off-road vehicle, but it's another thing entirely to put it into a road car. The vision that Audi had was to take a small, high-performance, powerful sports car and give it all the benefits of a permanent all-wheel drive system without any of the drawbacks from off-road all-wheel drive systems. No one had really successfully done this for a sports car, and even if they could overcome the engineering challenge, there's still the issue of how do you sell the cars? You go racing. Rally racing back then isn't even close to what it is today. In fact, back then, the sport of rally wanted nothing to do with 4x4 or all-wheel drive, simply because of that heavy transfer case. There was no way to get around that weight penalty of having, superior traction, but at the expense of having this big, heavy transfer case in your car. And it's not to say that sports cars back then didn't have permanent all-wheel drive. For example, the Jensen FF was a very sophisticated and advanced sports car for the time, and it did have all-wheel drive. The problem was that it weighed 4,000 pounds. So Audi had really two big challenges getting into rally. One, they had to design a more efficient permanent all-wheel drive system. But two, they had to get the rules changed so that they could even enter. Let's talk about the car, the quattro, or the original quattro. This was kind of a bold move for Audi because they essentially slapped together this homologation special to be able to compete in rally. And what's more than that, they had a very distinct and unique engine that they used in the car. A 5-cylinder, which sounds so good.
First of all, the reliability of the engine was really great. The second thing is the sound of a 5-cylinder engine.
It made a very distinctive sound when you let off the gas. The wastegates would open and it would flutter. It's like a porpoise. And it was so distinctive that people, they didn't even have to see the car. They just could hear the car. They knew that it was the Audi.
It's a key point for this car. This 5-cylinder sound is something very, very special.
And I think that that's the sound that most people remember.
Now, keep in mind, this quattro, albeit a pretty groundbreaking car for Audi, the competitors never really saw them as a legitimate threat. They were new to the game and they'd never done anything like this before. And add to that the quattro had never been built. It's not like they had a production line set up for this car. And despite the fact that it had to be hand built and it remained to be unproven, they went to the race anyways.
Right from the start, John Buffum in the Audi Quattro jumped into the lead, clipping 4 seconds off Clive Smith-Datsun on the first stage.
Hannu Mikkola and the 4-wheel drive Audi Quattro are annihilating the opposition. Already they've built up a staggering 7-minute lead.
Now, what's important to understand about the rally race is that you can't just show up and compete. There are rules that you have to abide by. Namely, you have to enter a car that the general public can buy. So, seeing as how Audi just released this car, they hadn't sold enough yet to be able to enter the race. So, you kind of have to wait until you sell enough cars. But the FIA did let Audi enter the race as a non-competitive entry. In short, it was a nice way of saying, hey, you guys want to compete, why not come out and have some fun? Whatever time you set, whatever points you make, it's not going to count, but, welcome to the sport and have a good time. Now, Audi's putting a lot on the line here. They're selling this brand new car, actively trying to promote it. They're trying to get into, rally racing. And when they showed up to do this non-competitive entry, it didn't take long for people to realize that, oh, this could be a serious competitor. Had Audi actually been in the race and their time and their points counted, they would have won by over half an hour. That's how much faster they were. In their first WRC entry, Audi entered 8 events and won 3 of them, including Michelle Mouton, who was the first female rally driver in history to win.
You're 50 seconds ahead of anyone else on
You must
time.
know it, you was with me.
I know, I felt it all the way. How do you think we're doing? Am I coping all right as your navigator?
You know, you never tell me to slow down, so that means I was not quick enough.
Oh, Michelle. Go quicker if you like, but I think I'd rather not look. And all I could do was yell last-minute instructions at Michelle and just hang on for dear life. I've been on rallies before, but never with somebody like this. It was just unbelievably quick. She says she's going slowly. I think she's going quicker than the end of the world.
Despite the fact that the original Quattro was a mix of different parts, it was kind of this amalgamation of different cars, and it was very expensive. Yeah, the general public welcomed it with open arms, and the car was selling. It was kind of the first signal flare that people were ready to have a sports car with permanent all-wheel drive. This is a pretty remarkable achievement when you consider the fact that there isn't anything else at the time to benchmark it against. You can't go to different car dealerships, different brands, and say, oh yeah, 5-cylinder, permanent all-wheel drive, lightweight, yes please, something that's comparable. No one made anything like this. And again, what was even more exciting was that 5-cylinder engine, which, if you heard it, especially the rally version, how could you not instantly fall in love with that? I think this is an exciting time in history because for the first time you saw people accepting the notion that, oh, a sports car isn't just a weekend toy or maybe in the summertime only. No, you could daily drive a sports car in any conditions, rain, snow, mud, whatever, and it could do the job. 1983, 1984, they were just crushing it. And in 1985, we actually got the introduction of the S1 Quattro, nicknamed Shorty. It's that very iconic, very short Quattro, but man, that thing was cool. People were starting to not just want the Quattro, the original sports car, but Audi was putting their Quattro drive system in all of their vehicles because it was in such high demand. And this is a good winning formula that Audi kept coming back to. Even in 1987, when they came back to compete in Group A, while they weren't as successful, they also ushered in something new, a 4-door rally car that made people want to buy, hey, like here's a 4-door sedan that is also a sports car. And it sort of changed the perception around that. At the end of the day, these car manufacturers, they're a business, and any business, their mission is to make money and sell the product. So they're on a mission to sell cars, and this actually brings us to the next point in their racing history. Audi wasn't doing very well in the United States. It wasn't a popular brand. People didn't really care much for them. And the whole idea of, you know, permanent all-wheel drive is like, well, who cares? They were hurting in that market, and that sucks because the US market is a huge buyer's market where you want your car to sell well. The US market is different. It doesn't care about rally racing as much as, say, in Europe. And you want to sell your high-performance, small, lightweight sports car, 5-cylinder engine and permanent all-wheel drive. How do you appeal to US car buyers?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the GTE St. Petersburg Grand Prix. We're just moments away from cars on course.
Dr. Pierre called and said, Mr. Stuck, we need you. We are going with Audi to motor racing. I said, what? I mean, Audi was legendary for rally, you know? And he said, no, we're going to enter the motor racing and we're going to start out in the States because we need some promotion there with Trans Am Series.
So they said, well, why not, instead of proving this on dirt and gravel, why don't we prove the advantages on a road surface, on a racetrack? Everybody thought that I was absolutely out of my mind to accept this challenge to race basically a full-size sedan in the Trans Am series, very competitive series in the United States.
Not only was it very popular with US buyers, but it was dominated by bigger V8 coupes. So to come in with a four-door sedan and a five-cylinder, if they could win, if they could demonstrate the competency of the car in this race, it would surely win over the hearts and minds of car buyers.
My competitors found that we were going to be racing an Audi, and they took a look at the car the first time. They kind of laughed and said, "You got to be kidding. This is a car that we race that looks very much like the sedan that people can buy in the showrooms."
Haywood surprises everyone with a second-place finish. Still, most experts regarded this as beginner's luck.
You have to keep in mind, this is like the ugly duckling showing up to the race. Everyone's in big V8 sports cars, and here's this four-door sedan. It was kind of like a joke. No one took them seriously. Not only were they a sort of unknown brand in the market, but it was their first time competing in Trans Am.
The bosses from Chevrolet or everyone, then they come and say, "See, look at the engine." No chance, you know. I mean, they didn't even think about us, you know. They were laughing at you, just said, you know.
All the laughing stopped after the first race. we were just so dominant.
Audi had an ace up their sleeve. For one, that five-cylinder engine, while it may have been much smaller in displacement compared to the bigger V8s, it was putting out 600 horsepower, and they also had quattro.
The competition was beginning to feel that the Quattros were enjoying a bit too much of an advantage. They accused the team of sandbagging, holding back in practice, not showing their true speed, then turning it on late in the race. The other teams lobby for a rule change.
We don't have the advantage of the all-wheel drive Audis.
We can't go head-to-head with the Audi or the V6s because of our added weight.
There's no way that we can run at the end of the race with the Audis. I expect Hans to show us his heels here very soon.
Just a little too unfair. They aren't invited back for next year.
And these two factors, the engine and with the quattro drive, gave us a really good advantage, and they freaked out. They couldn't believe it. You know?
It was unbeatable. Won the championship, won the title for Audi, for the manufacturer.
We got so successful they even banned us after '88. That's why we had to go to IMSA in '89, you know. But we did even better there.
It proved indisputable that quattro was a more dominant system on the track, and it started to win fans, and it started to kind of change people's perspective that yes, you can have more power, but what if you could put it down and you could corner better and drive faster? And yeah, it was such a loved car that the SCCA banned Audi from Trans Am after they won 2 titles. So now Audi is in a little bit of a tough spot, because when you're banned from Trans Am, where else do you go? There's the IMSA circuit, which is Canada and the US, but it's way more competitive. It's more akin to like Group B. There's less restrictions and there's fierce competition. And they didn't necessarily have a car ready for it. Just like Trans Am, they kind of had to put something together from scratch and do it all over again to enter a brand new series.
Yeah, when we raced here in IMSA, you know, we did a very funny thing to our opponents. I found a rubber doll called Mr. Bus, you know, and you connect it to the rear inside of your window and had a pipe and a little thing here to press. And when I pressed it, he pulled his pants down, you know. So when I overtook Pete Halsmer or somebody else, I did like this, and they freaked out, you know. And funny enough, I have this still at home, this thing, and they use it sometimes on the roads in Austria, and people laugh about it, you know.
You have different surfaces, sometimes it's road courses, sometimes it's a racetrack, but at the end of the day, it's another challenge and a good opportunity to prove the effectiveness of permanent all-wheel drive. But you still need a powerful engine to put in the car.
IMSA is the top series in production car racing in the USA. Audi chose a highly maneuverable racing machine, the 90 Quattro of the IMSA series. Audi chose the 5-cylinder 4-valve turbo engine that won honours in rallying in the S1 version of the Sport Quattro.
In less than 4 months, Audi was able to essentially strip down the Quattro S1 Shorty, take that 700 plus horsepower 5-cylinder engine, the Quattro drivetrain, and get it ready for the race. In fact, they were even late to the race. I think they missed the 2 first races of the season, but nonetheless, here's this new competitor people are looking at like, yeah, who cares? Well,
all of a sudden, so many fans behind us because we were different, you know. We were the Bavarians in the States, you know. They loved our mechanics because they were yodeling and just bringing the Bavarian history. And it was a change in motorsport in the States. And it was a change for good because we inspired the Americans to do better and they were inspired to beat us. So it was a win-win situation.
Despite the fact that it was their first time trying, Audi won 7 times in the series, and it just kind of blindsided everybody. It was like, what? And I think what's remarkable about Trans Am and IMSA is that Audi had no prior experience. They basically tore down their rally cars, repurposed them for a brand new series that they're like, hopefully this works. And you know, with the challenges and the problems they had to overcome and still win and get banned from both series, it was a testament to their engineering prowess and determination, and that's what won the fans. You know, that's what got people excited about the brand. And it's like, whoa, look at these guys coming out of nowhere and just stealing the show. And what the hell is permanent all-wheel drive? It's good, that's what it is.
Beautiful.
If it wasn't for the team and like Audi Racing in these American series, it's likely that, you know, all-wheel drive or permanent all-wheel drive in vehicles wouldn't be as popular as it is today or as common, because it forced the competitors to rethink their strategy. It forced the officials who ran the races to rethink the rules. And it got people thinking and talking about like, well, is permanent all-wheel drive a better thing to have in a vehicle? And, you know, maybe if they didn't do that, it would have caught on at some point or another. But at the time, especially, it was something that was just, whoa, what is this technology? So yeah, I think it's a remarkable accomplishment that in such a short amount of time, they were able to, you know, be victorious like they were. Now, after Audi got banned from IMSA and they got banned from Trans Am, back in Germany in 1990, DTM, or the German Touring Car Championship, was something that they hadn't really ever been in or conquered. So that was kind of next on the horizon. But it's Germany. Why would they go there? Aren't they a German company? Wouldn't people know the brand? Well, not really. You see, Audi was building a name for itself. First, you know, to demonstrate Quattro's effectiveness on rally circuits, and then show, hey, it's really good on pavement too. But you still kind of have to race and compete in the markets where you want people to buy cars. You have to show up, they have to see you, you have to be victorious and all these things. But DTM is a much different game. These are serious competitors with very capable cars. Ford, Mercedes, and BMW. Those were kind of like the ones to dethrone at the time. So Audi was going up against some very stiff competition. And again, this is one of those situations where Audi is not a crowd favorite. People don't really know the brand, they don't really care, and they're kind of a new entrant into the game that no one really takes seriously. Here we go again.
the track, rubbing bumpers against it and something 50 mile an hour when they went up the hill.
And this is one of my personal favorite times in like the racing lineage for Audi, because in 1990, for whatever reason, officials decided to ban turbochargers from the race. I think because it was too expensive or it made the races too dangerous. For whatever reason, cars couldn't have forced induction anymore. And this is actually a good thing for BMW and Mercedes because they had really great naturally aspirated engines. Ford, on the other hand, with the Sierra Cosworth, without the turbocharger, they'd be severely underpowered. And more importantly, what would Audi do if they couldn't turbocharge their 5-cylinder? It's not like Audi could go back to the S1 or the IMSA car and rob that 5-cylinder that was producing 700 plus horsepower again. They had to come up with something very quickly to deal with this problem. And just to put it in perspective, like Audi's going up against BMW and Mercedes. Both those companies threw a lot of shade on them with their luxury big V8 cars. Audi didn't really have anything like that. They did have the Audi V8, which was sort of a one-off specialty luxury sedan, but it was big, heavy. It wasn't engineered or designed to be much of a race car, so to speak. Coming in at around 4,000 pounds, that V8 only had 247 horsepower. In almost every other scenario, Audi kind of had in their back pocket this really, really good 5-cylinder engine, this great drivetrain, and, you know, even without experience, they could be ready for a race. But the DTM in Germany, it's like, we need a V8. The only car they really had was this kind of Frankenstein V8 out of the Audi V8, which is a big luxury sedan, and no one really expected them to use that, but they did. So it was very surprising when they showed up to DTM and they had this amazing V8 and it sounded so good. On race day, not only did this car shed a lot of weight, going from 4,000 pounds to 2,700, but that V8 was pumping out 414 horsepower now, and man, it was a rocket.
Second position in qualification to an Audi of Frank Biller, who's actually the driver's champion of 91, so I don't really know what to predict for the race. I would hope to think I can win, but I'm not sure if I can.
This is a perfect example of the ingenuity and engineering prowess of Audi, going again to a race in a series they've never competed in before with a brand new car they had to put together very fast, and still walking away with 2 championships in 1990 and 1991. So racing is pretty interesting, right? Because with each victory, each failure and lesson learned, consumers, buyers like us, get access to better and better technology with each iteration that comes down the pipeline. For example, after the DTM victories, we got to see the introduction of the RS2, the very first Audi Avant, the wagon.
1994, Audi RS2 Avant, the world's first truly high-performance luxury estate car. How can we make this claim? After successful collaborations on the 924 and 944, Audi again partnered with Porsche, 2 titans of industry bringing to bear their respective expertise with one goal in mind. And thus, the Audi RS2 was born.
Totally understated car that kind of ushered in a brand new era for Audi. The RS or Rennsport division of Audi and the RS2 was really just the beginning of what would come to be this awesome line of different cars that Audi has made over the years. Take the RS6, for example, the ultimate Avant, this car that is the perfect everything vehicle, literally can do anything you want. You want to haul a family? Sure. Get groceries? Sure. Long road trips? Sure. You want a high performance supercar? Sure. That's a cool car. Or take, for example, the kind of miniature scaled down version of that, the RS3, something that, you know, is more lightweight, it's just as practical, but now you have this amazing 5-cylinder engine in there, which again, you hear it for the first time and you can't help but fall in love with it. It just sounds so good. We also got to see the RS4, the iteration, the B5, with that amazing V6 engine. The B7, which is my personal favorite car, the B7 RS4 in the Avant form, or the sedan with that glorious 4.2 naturally aspirated V8. And even evolving from that, my car, like my favorite engine, the RS5 and the RS4, the B8 editions with that 8,250 RPM redline, it's just such a good package for a car. Or consider the flagship car for Audi, the R8, you know, the one that all the kids want, and it's the poster pinup car and the Iron Man car, you know, who doesn't love an R8, whether it's the V8 version or the V10, both of those are just still awesome. You have what a lot of people would consider the more sensible version of the R8, the TTRS, which is, again, with that amazing 5-cylinder engine and just kind of that perfect package for a sports car. All of these cars inspired by racing and giving consumers access to advanced technology, and it does trickle down to all of the other brands that Audi makes, whether it's the A line, the S line, which is arguably kind of the more sensible buy over an RS car, but it doesn't change the fact that competition breeds better technology and new iterations that are more efficient, more powerful, more fun. And yeah, you have to love, you know, how the story has progressed over the years up until now. Because I think looking back on the history of Audi, when you think about the lineage and what they had to go through, like this is a brand that, again, people looked at and laughed. They're like, what are you doing here? Why are you trying to compete in this? And they proved that this new technology they developed in this permanent all-wheel drive system could be effective on rally circuits, could be effective on street circuits, on racetracks. It is the future and where the technology should go. And I would say Quattro is a brand that today people recognize, and it is somewhat of a legend in the car world. And speaking of legends, you have to think about the people and the race drivers who helped make this vision a reality. People like Michel Mouton or Walter Roll, Hans Stuck, Stig Blomqvist, Hannu Mikkola, Hurley Haywood. It's not just these drivers who did groundbreaking things, but it's the teams who supported them, the engineers who built the cars. And when it all comes down to it, they did something for us, which is change the game, and we all got to benefit from that. You know, what's interesting to me as I learned about this history is the fact that I always considered Audi to be this kind of underdog throughout all of this, but they're really not. Truth is, with a company like VW backing them, Audi wasn't this kind of scrappy upstart showing up to the races and saying, hey, we're going to try and make a go of it. They were a juggernaut. Like, when Audi showed up to the race, I'm sure as the competition came to know them, it was like, oh shit, they're here. Don't forget, like, VW is a Goliath car manufacturer. They own not just Audi, but they also own Lamborghini. Oh, and they also own Bentley, and they also own Skoda, and they also own Porsche. And let's not forget that somewhat fast car, the Bugatti. Nevertheless, I think that as a brand, you know, just focusing back on Audi here, what they were able to accomplish, what the engineers did with the Quattro system is prove that you don't need a very heavy transfer case and you don't need to penalize a car by adding in all this weight. You could have it be small, compact, robust, and reliable. And not only that, be highly capable as well. I think it's great that they did because, again, it trickles down into the car buying market so that you can get access to these things. And looking back, you know, over the development cycle, like, lots has changed since those glory days from the past, and the technology's advanced quite a bit. And from a buyer's point of view, how do you go about buying the right Quattro system today? So let's drill down into it, right? Like, what is the main goal for having a permanent all-wheel drive system in a sports car? You know, you're probably wondering, we've talked a lot about Rennsport or RS Audis. Is Quattro only available in RS Audis? No, as a matter of fact, the Quattro is available in almost any Audi that you buy. But what you should know is that not all of them are the same. Some of them have a 50-50 power distribution, some are 60-40, some are predominantly front-wheel drive, some are predominantly rear-wheel drive, and you know, it's hard to know kind of what you're getting because really all you see is the brand Quattro. And it's frustrating because there is that looming question, are certain Quattro systems better than others? Over the years, we've seen a number of different iterations of the Quattro system. So going back to the 1980s, that was the first generation with an open center differential and manually locking switches front and rear. Then we had the second generation, and that introduced the iconic Torsen center differential that everyone talks about. By 1988, we also saw in the V8 car, which was the third generation of Quattro, it had a Torsen diff, but it had an electronic control for the multi-plate locking clutch. Then around 1995, we saw the fourth generation with a Torsen open diff, which now had electronic locking diffs that could send up to 75% of the torque to either the front or rear axle. Then in 2006, we finally saw the fifth generation with the Torsen Type C. This was a pretty big deal because we had torque vectoring, and with the electronic aid, it basically helped give the car more of a rear bias feel. And then the most recent generation, Gen 6, which came out in 2010 in the RS5, it replaced the Torsen diff with a center crown diff. And the main benefit of what this did was give more mechanical and instant power delivery to the front and rear axles with the benefit of improved mechanical torque vectoring. So a lot of different stuff here, but I think it matters when you're buying into an Audi or a Quattro system nowadays, because there are so many different ones, including ones I didn't mention, like Haldex or like, you know, Ultra, and how those systems works and how much different they are from the traditional Quattro systems. So Anyways, this kind of concludes this portion of the episode, and if you've enjoyed this documentary so far, please like and subscribe, show your support, and keep an eye out for the next half of this video. So yeah, thanks for watching.
Someone said that it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one has ever done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it.
Let's give her a little bit of acceleration. Oh, yeah. I know it's getting to the point now, especially with electric cars, the instant torque and acceleration. I mean, the sensation is great, but with the sound that this creates and the vibration, yeah, it's an awesome experience. It's kind of like how a video game is not quite the same thing as real life. It can be a really good simulator, but to have the real deal, you can't compare. Dun, 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 dun. Even with the windows rolled up, you still get that beautiful tone. I don't know. That's a hard engine sound to beat.